My sister, who is 25 years now, is 2.5 years older than me, and I don't have a single positive memory of her from childhood. My earliest one is her doing what she would continue to do until I moved out at 18. I'm sitting on the floor, maybe 4 or 5, playing with whatever toys with my dad out of sight but within earshot in the kitchen. She comes in and begins speaking in a low voice so my dad can't hear, saying a stream of insults about how I'm so unloved, how my parents don't want me, how they'd be better off without me, etc. I get upset and yell and maybe throw a toy or hit her, and my dad comes in to see what's going on, having heard me yell. She says she was just walking by and I attacked her unprovoked. My dad believes her and he tells me off while she stands behind him with a creepy little smirk that is still seared into my memory, like, "See? I told you." She was 6 or 7 and jealous of her baby sister. Except not only did it never stop, it got much, much worse. I believed everything she told me. When you hear something over and over as a child in situations designed to have whatever parent falsely reinforce it, you'll believe it. And she did that to me constantly. We were never friends, we never had a positive interaction. So by the time I was 11, I hated myself, believed myself to be unlovable, unwanted, and a cancer in my family. I developed severe social anxiety, anorexia, and depression so intense it manifested with mild psychotic features at one point. I stayed at 5 feet 4 inches 20 pounds underweight through high school, while she shot up to 6 feet 1 inch. She loved having the ability to control my emotions and made sure I was constantly miserable. Her little trick of finding me and quietly insulting me so I'd get angry and get in trouble never stopped. I was going insane, I hated myself and was severely emotionally unstable, so I'd usually react. When I didn't give her the reaction she wanted, however, she'd become what I can only describe as enraged. She'd slap, punch, scratch, strangle me until my vision went fuzzy, drag me across the room by my hair, etc. And she was much bigger than me, I couldn't really fight back. When we were in HS at the same time, she'd drive us to school and I'd always try and stay quiet but would show up crying from the things she'd say to me in the car and the things she'd do to make me physically uncomfortable. My parents didn't initially believe me about the physical abuse or that she was constantly instigating, they just thought we were fighting because we both didn't get along. Then my mom then realized at least some of the severity of it and my sister's role in my personal hell, that she began to arrange for she and I to move out and into my grandmother's, but it never happened. I think my mom got overwhelmed and kind of shut down like she still does. My dad didn't believe it was my sister at all until a few years ago. So nothing happened, there was no effort to separate us, and she kept driving me to school despite me begging for one of them to instead. I got more and more unstable. I hated being in the house since she was there, so I'd go on walks that would last 4 to 6 hours. A few times I walked so long my legs gave out and I'd have to sit on a curb for another hour plus till I could walk again. I'd walk through bad neighborhoods intentionally hoping to get shot or kidnapped or something. I was so depressed and miserable at home. My dad got cancer and she accused me of worsening it, telling me I was going to kill him since I couldn't stay home and often stayed out past curfew to get away from her. This stressed my parents out as they thought I was getting high, but I was literally just walking for hours. Stress is bad for cancer, hence my role in his illness. He recovered fully, thank God. My little brother was born when I was 6 and she showered him with love from that moment on, often running to cuddle him and then insulting me while doing so just so I'd feel the difference. I didn't realize how aware he was of this and her intent until recently. I didn't know that what she was doing was systematic and intentional abuse and not normal until I was 21 and in therapy. I finally cut her off. I confronted my parents and forced them to listen to story after story of her beating and choking me now that I knew it wasn't okay. My dad broke down sobbing and apologized over and over for not believing me then, and now for years later, I've mostly forgiven him and try not to be resentful. They're incredibly loving parents, and I've read so much about how most parents don't recognize sibling abuse for what it is. It's harder for me to forgive my mom as she did recognize it then did nothing to protect me, but I don't think she knew the extent, and I know it's her own anxiety reaction to just stop trying when things get to be too much. I still don't know why she did it. In the beginning I understand jealousy, but later she was a beautiful, incredibly intelligent, successful, and well-liked student, and I was stick and bones spiraling uncontrollably. But still she hated me. This led me to some very, very dark places, including a horrifying relationship with a 33-year-old at 16 I still get flashbacks from today. She's very much a narcissist, and I know that's an overused word, but after leaving high school she kind of let her true colors show to everyone else too. As a kid, I was the only one subjected to her abuse while she was the brilliant golden child, which is part of why nobody outside the family believed me either, so it was pretty gratifying for me when she started treating everyone around her like second-tier trash, and though she didn't abuse them like me, it did cause all her friends to cut her off en masse and see that I hadn't been lying the entire time. Nobody speaks to her now. After I went no contact with her, she did the same to my parents. Then my little brother, who had witnessed much of her behavior towards me, ended contact as well, and he and I have become close. I've been through a lot, including sexual assaults and that awful relationship at 16, but I only have nightmares about her. A recurring one where she comes back into our lives and I'm once again forced to be around her and told to deal with it. Though everyone knows about the abuse, they don't know how confused and hurt I still am about why she would do all those things to her own sister and never stop. I put on like I don't care now that she's gone and know she's just a bitch. But it hurts me so deeply to see the relationships and bonds other sisters have, and I still feel like, even though logically I know it's not true, that there's something inherently wrong with me and has been since childhood that prevented that bond from ever forming. Otherwise, I can't understand why she's always hated me so intensely. May we all heal and succeed. Alright, I need to get something off my chest. It's been eating at me for a while now, and I'm hoping by sharing it I can finally make some sense of it. The thing is, I've never had an experience like this before. One where something that was supposed to bring us closer, something that was supposed to be a breakthrough, has completely torn my friendship apart. So, let me start from the beginning. My best friend T, he's 30 and I'm 32, we've known each other for about 10 years. We met through mutual friends and right from the start we clicked. But things didn't stay easy. I was going through one of the most traumatic periods of my life when we first became close. My ex-boyfriend assaulted me and he went to jail for it, but that didn't erase the damage. I was shattered. I was a broken person and I didn't know how to put myself back together. But he was there for me. He was my rock. He held me up when I couldn't even hold myself together. I don't even know how I would have made it through those days without him. He kept me alive in a way. He was the one who made sure I didn't give up. Fast forward a few years to when we started really growing into our friendship. I'm not sure if it was just because we were getting older or what, but we were talking more about who we were, our values, things like that. And a couple years ago, out of nowhere, T confided in me about something that took me completely off guard. He told me that when we first met, what drew him to me wasn't just our shared interests or the fact that we were both a little quirky. It was actually something I had no memory of, a conversation I had with one of our mutual friends about trans rights. Apparently, I had gotten into a heated argument with a coworker who was being a jerk about trans issues, and I'd told them off. I don't even remember it, but T said that moment stuck with him because he admired how passionately I stood up for the trans community. I didn't think anything of it at the time, but then he said something that completely took me by surprise. He told me that he liked to cross-dress. I didn't know what to say. I mean, I've always been a pretty open person and this didn't change anything for me. So I just said, "Oh, okay, cool. Are you trans? Gay? What's your shoe size?" I mean, I didn't know where this was headed, so I figured it was best to just ask all the questions up front. He told me he wasn't trans, but he enjoyed cross-dressing. He liked high heels and that was about it. I said, "Slay," and moved on. No big deal, right? The thing is, I'm not what you'd call a girly woman. I don't know how to coordinate outfits. I'm not someone who's going to give you a rundown of what goes with what. I'm comfortable in my own skin, but I don't have all the ins and outs of fashion. So I thought I could be a good friend and just let him be himself. But that's where everything started to go downhill. Since that conversation, everything has gotten incredibly tense between us. It's like a constant emotional roller coaster. He started digging for reassurance from me, like constantly needing me to tell him that I support him. Text after text, conversation after conversation, I found myself having to repeat the same thing over and over. Yes, I support you. Yes, you can be who you are. But no matter how many times I said it, it was never enough. There were always more questions, more doubts, and more fights. We started fighting over things I didn't even understand. He would accuse me of changing my mind about trans people, even though he's told me a million times he's not trans, so I have no idea where this was coming from. He'd say things like, "You'll change your mind someday, I know it," or, "The media is brainwashing you. You probably hate me deep down." These accusations would just come out of nowhere and I was always blindsided. I wasn't prepared for it. I was just living my life, being the same person I always was, but suddenly it felt like I was walking on eggshells around him. It wasn't just the questions or the digs. It was the feeling of constantly being attacked for simply existing. And then it started feeling like everything I did wasn't enough. I've bought him clothes. I've watched him do his fashion shows, where he struts around, trying on outfits, asking for my opinion. I've stood by him and advocated for him in front of other friends, encouraging him to be who he is without fear of judgment. But none of that mattered. Every time he felt insecure, he'd lash out at me, accusing me of things I didn't even understand. I felt like I was living in a constant state of defense, like I had to always explain myself, always assure him that I was still on his side, even when I didn't know where the attacks were coming from. Got exhausting. I can't be responsible for someone's emotional well-being at every single turn. I can't be the one to carry the burden of every political argument, every bit of news that triggers him. When he hears something about executive orders on trans rights, or the latest drama about trans athletes, suddenly I'm his punching bag. I didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for being the one who has to defend myself from accusations I don't even understand. I mean, I'm not even political. I don't associate with any political party. I tend to be anti-government if anything. But I've always known what's right and I've always supported the LGBT+ community. I don't need to be told I'm a bad person because I'm not as politically vocal as he thinks I should be. The thing is, I started to feel like it was my fault for being so supportive in the first place. I had wanted to be there for him, I wanted him to feel loved and accepted. But the more he would get angry or upset with me, the more I started to wish he had never told me in the first place. I wanted my friend back, the person I'd had all those amazing years with before all of this tension started. I just wanted to go back to how things were. Now it feels like there's a wall between us. I feel like I can't just exist without worrying about triggering some emotional breakdown. I can't even talk to him without feeling like I'm doing something wrong. And to be honest, it's breaking me. The constant tension is suffocating. I never thought that being there for a friend would turn into this. I thought that this would be a beautiful moment of growth for us, but it's turned into an emotional minefield. And I can't keep doing this. I don't want to be his emotional punching bag anymore. I don't want to defend myself every time something new comes up in the media or when he's feeling insecure. I don't want to feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own friendship. I don't want to be the one who's always under the microscope. And if I'm being honest, I think I've lost the person I once knew. I don't know who this version of T is anymore and I'm tired of trying to figure it out. I never wanted to hurt him and I certainly don't hate him. But this whole experience has been miserable and I don't know how to fix it. I just want my friend back, the friend who was there for me when I needed someone, the friend who helped me survive the worst period of my life. I miss that person, but I don't think they're coming back. So to sum it up, I don't know what's next. I don't know if I'll ever feel like I can be friends with him again. I just know that this has been a lot. And I don't think I can do it anymore. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do and hit the notification bell.